Johnny, who is calling in from Maryland. Johnny, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
Hey, I can't believe I'm doing this. I was calling about numbers and how they drive people crazy. Sometimes I've seen, I've gone through it my whole life. I'm trying to get help for it now, and now that I'm trying to get over it now. I see how much it affects all of everybody else. Toe, like the theory of everything.
I've heard of it, yeah.
That's what I've kind of been obsessed with forever, and I'm just I don't like math or numbers or anything. So,
Gotcha.
but in school when I was good.
Oh no, go ahead. I was just saying, gotcha.
School,
yeah.
Yeah, in school I was taught. They knew I didn't like it either, but they were just teaching basic adding and subtraction, and how you check your math with the subtraction. And when we got to multiplication, I just asked her, can you do the same thing with that? And she started saying that it was my method, and I thought she just did that to kind of get me excited about math. And fast forward 20 years, I'm at a swim meet, and when I get out of the pool, a bunch of kids run up to me, and they start asking me if I'm that person. I thought it was just because I was on, because they said my name at the swim meet, that it was because of that. So I was like, what the hell? Why was she telling everybody my damn name? It was not like I came up with it. You know what I mean? It was just a simple thing. So it started just driving me nuts, and how I started because when you teach a kid something, you can't teach them the truth. You have to lie to a kid, basically. You can't, when you're teaching anybody, you can't start with number 0, basically. You know what I mean? You can't teach somebody nothing. You have to teach them 1 first. And it seems like it's really hard to get people back to 0. They really teach them the nothing. And that's, so I thought I solved it, and I'm kind of going crazy over it. So I'm trying to just let it go, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So wait, before we go on with this conversation, Johnny, are you in any immediate distress, or is this kind of just a more fun conversation? Because if you're in distress right now, I'm not the person that you need to talk to, right? So if you could tell me that, that'd be great.
I am in distress, but it's not because of that. I have people taking care of me for that. So the distress part is related to that, but I'm safe right now. I'm okay.
Okay, as long as you have somebody that you can talk to, or you have proper contact with, whoever advises for your mental health, I'm okay with this having the conversation, but I don't want to talk to somebody who's feeling distressed and then potentially make them feel more distressed. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like to me, and I don't know, I'm not the person qualified to talk about this, but I know, for example, folks who have OCD, right, express a proclivity towards things. Sometimes it can be, in a case like yourself, with numbers, right? Something that that they give an involuntary amount of time towards thinking about. And that kind of thought process can be negative towards one's life, right? It can not necessarily be a sense of, you don't get a sense of progress out of it necessarily. It's not something that is helping you get anywhere, but it's just a sort of a thought pattern that feels like it's something that you can't control. Is this what you're describing here? Is this kind of what you're talking about? Is this sort of a mental health struggle for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that sounds really hard to live with, by the way. I'm very sorry that you have to go through that.
Yeah. What are some things that help? Oh, so sorry.
Okay. What are some things that help what?
Yeah. So what are some things that give you joy, or that make your day more pleasant, or that distract you from those ideas or those thoughts?
I don't know. I don't really have that yet. That's that's why I'm kind of going through. I've never had therapy or anything, so I've just reached out. Actually, you guys are the reason I reached out to therapy in the first place.
Oh,
So
Great.
good,
Wonderful.
good,
I'm with
good.
the ACA, and I don't really. I'm starting to watch all the shows now, but I didn't really have a place I could trust to call because I just found out like my drug counselor is a flat earther yesterday. You know what I mean? So it's like you talk
Oh,
to
wow.
somebody, you think you can, and then you're like, oh shit, you're fucking crazy too. Not
Well,
that,
so
but you know what I mean?
here's what's interesting about that, though, Johnny, is that people can hold unorthodox beliefs and still be mentally healthy, right? Like
Right.
there can, it's not always the case, but I see a therapist, for example, and she's a Christian, right? So you would think that we wouldn't have as much in common as we do, but she's actually my favorite person that I've ever talked to. And it's because the techniques she employs really doesn't have a whole lot to do with religious beliefs or any other kinds of beliefs, right? The stuff that you can learn, and depending on the kind of therapy you go to, can be very different. And as you're probably learning, there's many different kinds. I see someone that tries to employ cognitive behavioral therapy, right? There's also dialectical behavioral therapy. Then there's also good old fashioned just talk therapy and stuff, right? There's all kinds of different techniques in which people will tell you have varying levels of success, based on different kinds of metrics. But I wouldn't dismiss somebody. Now, I'll tell you this: if I heard that, that would give me a red flag too. But keeping an open mind with people who know what
Yeah.
they're talking about can also be a good thing too. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Not only that, but
I
oh, sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
would say I agree with that. It was just surprising, but I still trust her just the same because I remember going through those thoughts of myself about when those things come up, because for me, it's just a real quick, like, whenever I believe something, I try to do the reverse to test it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I try to check my work with other people. That's just my whole method. If I start believing something, I'm like, okay, I try to check with as many people as possible, try to help them prove me wrong, so,
Yeah.
but this one, it's just tricky because numbers is not really like you know what I mean? It's difficult.
Yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
also, I've heard it phrased in the past because I've had multiple counselors and I've been to therapy before. They talk about how counseling and therapy isn't like it's very similar to like a pair of shoes, where just because you need shoes doesn't mean the first pair that you come upon are going to be the right ones for you. And you're allowed to try as many different ones as you want. And what happens is a lot of people, they'll find a counselor or a therapist and they won't agree with their thoughts and beliefs and they quit therapy. When in reality, what they might need to do is just find a new therapist. Because again, the first pair of shoes you happen to see after you decide you need them probably aren't going to fit. Right. And so there's that aspect too. But the fact that you're reaching out and asking for help is huge. And then there's the idea if there's nothing that you do outside of thinking about this, maybe that's also part of the problem. But
Mhm.
if you don't have hobbies and interests outside of these thoughts and feelings, and you just are alone with those thoughts and feelings, it doesn't make those thoughts and feelings wrong, but man, it makes them your main thing for the whole day, right? And so maybe something else to think about, and I'm not a mental health professional, but maybe something else to think about is what are some other things you can explore or check out or watch or be a part of or find interest in, that even if they don't solve the problem, they don't make you stew in it all day long or think about it all day long, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I agree because I'm like an artist, a musician, a maintenance supervisor. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm really
Yeah.
interested in how things work and work. It always eventually kind of comes back to the numbers. It's not something it's not something I'm trying to avoid, but yeah, I just need to get.
Right.
I know what you're saying.
That would be
Definitely.
frustrating.
I
I
think it's
can't
just,
even imagine.
yeah, because that's why I didn't want to get into music because it's such a thing. And then when I got into art, it's like shit, there too. So I just try to focus more on abstract art, so I didn't think of it, and then it's there.
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, I'll do music, and then say, all right, well, I need therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think,
That's great that you went for it.
Absolutely.
yeah, it's difficult because everything in like my surroundings and everything else. It's not even me. Like, I know how good therapy is, but like, it's just, like the callers before you guys have said, it's just what you're born as is you can't really help it. So by the time, it took me 43 years to finally reach out for therapy. And I knew my whole life that I needed it, but yeah.
I'm just so glad it didn't take you 44.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate 4.
That's right. That's really good.
No.
Johnny, I'm happy that you feel like you can talk to somebody like me of all people and Sydney about this, and that's also a good sign too, because just being, we were talking about this early in the show, for dudes in general, it's hard to be open about your emotional struggles. Um, you know, even if you are I would consider myself more emotionally open than I would say the average guy, and it's still hard for me to do that because there's
Right.
I don't know if it's culture, I don't know if it's biology. There is something in me that just says this is wrong, right? You shouldn't explore that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to needing help, it's the same thing, right? Because um I don't know. I don't know why, but what I do know is that it's good that you're getting that help, and uh even if having a conversation with us right now is giving you that relief, I'm happy to do that for you. So,
Yeah.
good for you, Johnny. This probably was very different from the call that you thought it would be. But real quick, was there anything else you wanted to talk to us about or let us know before we let you go?
No, I just thank you guys so much. I really appreciate everything you're doing.
Great. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Johnny.
Johnny.